Hello everyone. Today we are going to simulate star delta with reverse direction in classic controlled. This contactor will be used for rotating the motor clockwise. And this contactor will rotate the motor in the other direction. In this case anti-clockwise. Fuse to protect the motor from overcurrents. Thermal overload to protect the motor from overloads. This contactor will be used for running the motor in delta connection. This contactor will be used for running the motor at starting in Y connection. Let's connect the circuit. To change the motor direction you must reverse any two of the three power wires. Notice that L1 wire is transversed with L3 wire. To connect motor in delta configuration there is two valid connections. Either coil ends with coil starts such as in configuration 1, or coil starts with coil ends such as in configuration 2. Note that configuration 1 is made in here. You should also notice that thermal overload is connected inside delta configuration. so that it can be as close as possible to the motor, and to reduce the cost as the phase current is lower than line current by factor √3, hence the thermal overload rating will be lower. To connect motor in Y configuration, the coil ends are shorted together. Now to the control circuit. Fuse to protect the control circuit against short circuits. Emergency switch to cut the power off the control circuit when emergency situation occurs. Normally closed switch functioning as stop switch. I also need normally closed contact from thermal overload to stop the control circuit when there is overload, but I need to extract it from the thermal overload in power schematic. Two contactors for forward and reverse operation. Two normally open contacts to latch its own contactor. Two normally open switches to start the motor in forward and reverse condition. Electrical interlock to prevent energization of the two forward and reverse contactors at the same time, as it will lead to short circuit if both contactors work simultaneously. Contacts from off delay timer. Off delay timer to prevent starting of the motor when it is coasting to stop. Normally open contact from forward and reverse contactors in parallel to initiate star delta sequence, either forward or reverse condition. The star connection contactor. The delta connection contactor. On delay timer to delay working of delta contactor. Star contactor works only if delta contactor is not working and the on delay timer T2 haven't been energized yet, so star connection works only at starting. Delta contactor works only if star contactor is not working and the on delay timer T2 is energized, so delta connection works only after the delayed time. This is an electrical interlock between delta and star contactor. This contact works as latch for delta contactor. The on delay timer T2 works if delta contactor is not working, and when the time passes it energizes and activate delta contactor. Once the delta contactor is energized, this normally close contact changes its contacts and becomes open, hence deactivating the on delay timer, preventing it from continuously drawing power. Two normally open contacts from star and delta contactors to activate the off delay timer T1. Timer T1 only when star or delta contactors are energized. Once motor stops, delta and star contacts change position to open again, but the off delay timer does not change state unless defined time pass, so its contact keeps opened, hence preventing any attempt to start the motor in either direction unless time passes, allowing the motor to coast to stop. This process protects the motor from restarting in direction while it is still spinning in the other direction. Setting T1 delay time. This time depends on the motor deceleration time. In some cases this time could be unacceptable and the motor requires another way of braking, such as stator DC injection. Setting T2 delay time. This time depends on the motor acceleration time until it reaches 70% of rated RPM, then delta connection operate to prevent excessive starting current. Grouping each contactor sets of poles to its own contactor coil. Now for simulation. You should notice that I can't start the motor in the other direction, and the timer T1 is energized. Also, motor started with star connection. After a while, delta contactor gets in service. After pressing stop switch, motor decelerates and coasts to stop, but I still can't start the motor again in the other direction. After time elapsed, the motor eventually stopped, and the timer T1 reset, letting me to start the motor again. Notice that the star-delta sequence initiate in the other direction in the same manner.